Good morning and welcome to the very first Citi Business Festival Forum for 2022. My name is Kokwi Salome Hansen. I'll be your moderator for today's discussion, in which we'll be reimagining the digital economy. Now, for those of you who are joining us virtually, welcome, good morning, and you can participate in our discussion this morning. You can hashtag Citi Business Festival, or you can send us a WhatsApp message on 0550-585832. We'll take your comments and your questions and we'll pose them to our panel in just a bit. But again, today we're talking about reimagining the digital economy. Now, with all this talk about digitization and the fourth industrial revolution, people are wondering, what are all these buzzwords and terms? What do they mean? And how do they affect us? And how do we relate to them? Well, we're talking about blurring the lines between physical activity and technology and the internet and things of that nature. Now, a few years ago, the Ghana CEO Summit, the CEO of Margins, Moses Baden, made a few pointers about different aspects of the fourth industrial revolution. And he highlighted about a dozen things, a dozen components that go into discussing the fourth industrial revolution and how it would affect us. But in all of the points that he made, one important point was how government and business should be able to collaborate and come together to make sense of all of this fourth industrial revolution talk, thereby making the digital economy one that we can all benefit from and that can benefit the country at large. Again, this is the Citi Business Festival. We're talking reimagining the digital economy. Now, I won't be here alone. I'll introduce our guest later, but we must acknowledge our sponsors for this year's edition of the festival. To ABSA, thank you, ABSA, for being on board. To MTN as well. The Ghana Investment Promotion Center, thank you for sponsoring the Citi Business Festival. IT Consortium are also our sponsors for this year, and LifeMate Furniture, thank you for making our Citi Business Festival set look so beautiful. Now, again, the hashtag is Citi Business Festival, and the WhatsApp line is 0550-585832. Again, please do send in your messages and your questions, and if you're joining us virtually, we'll take those as well. Now, we'll take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to introduce you to our panelists and we'll delve into our discussion. Don't go anywhere.
Whoever you're doing it for, we'll help you get it done. Simply. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
You're watching the Citi Business Festival discussion on reimagining the digital economy. And remember, you can participate in our discussion. Do send us a message. Our WhatsApp line is 0550-585832. We want this to be as interactive as possible. You can also hashtag Citi Business Festival so we can pick up your messages. And again, those of you watching virtually, we are waiting to hear from you as well. Now, I'm not here alone. We've got experts here to discuss our theme for today. Again, it is reimagining the digital economy. And it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists for this morning. Kwame Opong is the head of FinTech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana. Welcome, Kwame. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll also say a very good morning to Romeo Buje, who is the CEO of IT Consortium. Welcome, Romeo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. And Justice Amegashi is the Acting Chief Enablement and Information Officer at ABSA. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Justice.
having me. Thank you.
All right, let's jump right into it. Okay,
Sure.
now I've got a very simple question for the three of you to start us off, okay, before we delve into the nitty-gritty. If you were explaining digital economy to a class 4 pupil, how would you do that? What would you say? What is a digital economy? Why don't you want to go first?
Okay. An economy that is driven by digitization, and digitization is changing our manual processes, manual things in terms of paper into a way that a computer can read and use it to help human beings take decisions. So converting either our processes of doing things, the forms that we use, into a situation that a machine can read.
Okay.
I mean, when we're in school, we say that the bits 0 and 1 is the basis of everything. Everything that we convert into electronic is actually in these two states, whether it is on or off. That is the rudimentary thing. And so once we're able to convert either the paper, the information on paper that we are using, or a process that allows us to be able to do something in a process that lets the computer or a machine read it, then that is digitization. Then when we use that one to take decisions and move things in the economy, that becomes the economic around it that gives us some money.
I like his definition.
Yeah.
It's working for me. I think it'll work for a class 4 people. Okay. How about you, Kwame?
Sure. Probably to explain to a class 4 people, I'd probably say a digital economy is their economy, and a traditional economy is grandpa's economy. I think there's one fundamental reality. Kids today, they're living in the virtual world. They're in Roblox, they're exploring the metaverse.
Yes.
And someday will come where we wouldn't even have to explain it to them. That is what they understand.
That's the reality.
They are digital natives. So really, our efforts in digitization, as Romeo has captured, as you can see, a collaboration and efforts between government, private sector, and all other stakeholders, is really to transition from offline to online. Because we're seeing and have seen the benefits of digitizing every aspect of our life.
Yes.
And I think the benefits that accrue from there over the long term would not only be beneficial to us, but it will really give us an opportunity to redefine our future and potentially, most importantly, the future of that next generation as well. Okay. So that digital economy is really an online economy, an economy that is accessible, available, is open, and is really transformational. And that's why I think it's interesting to us.
Very nice. Justice, your turn.
Thanks. So I think my colleagues have captured most of it, right? The economy, to a class 4 people, is just the exchange of goods and services, right? And now, traditionally, what we are used to is to carry out these activities in a physical manner.
Right.
Now, being able to move it into an online manner is what we classify as the digital economy. And now, the youth coming up are more of digital natives, right? So simply put to them, it's what you carry out now online instead of doing it physically. You would have gone to the market to purchase something, exchange physical cash, right? Transportation to the market, etc. Now you don't need to do that with the digital economy. You need to sit in the comfort of your home, go online, assess the product, you have someone delivered to you. So I think in a nutshell, digitization or the digital transformation of the economy is just to make it more easier and efficient for all players within the economy to transact and exchange goods and services.
Very nice. Okay, 100% for all of you. Hopefully we've passed the class 4 test. But okay, so we're discussing this today for several reasons. We hear a lot about digitization and digitalization. A lot of government communication emphasizes this, right? So we'll start with you on this one, Kwame. What is driving our move and our big push for entering this digital economy space? What are the drivers of this?
I think there are several reasons why a country like Ghana is embarking on digitization. We mentioned efficiency quite a bit, and I think it's important that people understand the fact that we all recognize the inefficiencies that exist generally in an offline environment, in our traditional sphere. But digitization gives us the opportunity to introduce efficiencies in terms of costs and expenditure.
Okay.
Digitization helps us improve efficiency in terms of how we can optimize our resources to cover citizens. It impacts us from the perspective of the quality of life that government can give the citizens. So from an outcome perspective, this is what is being sought. Now, how it's being pursued is another issue altogether, right? And I think if you look at our motivation, we also have the benefits of some recent history. The efforts that have been made in terms of transforming or digitizing certain aspects of the economy have already shown quite substantial benefits, which is encouraging and encouragement enough for us to pursue it. In addition to that, when you also look at the fact that increasingly the population itself is shifting digital, and you'd be surprised. Often when we think of digitization, we're thinking of the most complicated and sophisticated technology. Not really. It is as simple as a 50-something-year-old or a 60-something-year-old with a mobile phone being able to access information, being able to access financial transactions and services. That is digitization, and that is a consumer, for instance, who's shifting digital. So in reality, even our consumer base as a country is increasingly shifting digital. Now, businesses are transforming as well. They're taking advantage of all these efficiencies that digitization brings. And it behooves government to ensure that we, as an enabler of the economy and as an active participant in the, in the country, in the economic activities, it's important that we are also creating the enabling tools, the public infrastructure, the policy framework that enables much of this, so that digitization of the economy can happen, whether it's us driving it or as other parties such as the private sector or non-government organizations or individuals driving that effort. So I think we've seen a lot in terms of outcomes so far. That is reason for us to continue on this path, but also the evidence from everywhere else. So the jury is in terms of the benefits of digitization globally. And therefore, we cannot be left out in that new economy. In that new world, it will be very important that we have positioned ourselves well enough to be able to be successful.
Nice, okay. Now let me introduce another panelist who has just joined us. Ellie Hinney is the CEO of MTN Mobile Money Company Limited. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. All right, now we're talking about reimagining the digital economy. We've just started off on our first topic for our discussion, which is about the drivers of the digital economy and the reasons for which we're seeing this big push towards digitization and digitalization. And it's, of course, no surprise because that's the way the world is heading, right? But now let's check in with private sector. Government has had its say. We've got lots of app developers coming around. We've got the banking sector, which is trying to also keep up with technological advancements to make things more convenient for us and consumers. We've got, of course, the fintech space and mobile money. I'm sure you'll talk to us a lot more about some of the innovation in those kinds of areas as well. Now, how do you fit into the government plans as far as where government wants to go with digitalization? Again, the big push towards it and the kind of conversations that take place from private sector to government and vice versa about how to effectively make this work for Ghanaian consumers. Okay, let's start with you first, Romeo.
Okay, the conversation for us sometimes sits a lot with the regulator. Yeah, because whatever we do, we want to make sure that there is safety. Anytime you talk about economy, I think Justice talked about the exchange of goods and services, and we know the medium is currency.
Yes.
And once we move from the physical to the digital, it means our currency moves into the digital space. And so we talk about the mobile money and the cards and things like that. And so we are conscious of, one, the regulations that goes around it.
Okay.
Then two, we all know that government is the biggest employer in this country, and also a spender, if I should say. And government is supposed to give service to citizens. Some of the services that government wants to give to the citizens, if we don't have a means by which we can consume it, then the citizens can't benefit.
Right.
So if you want to maybe get some information from government, and you have to go to the government office to get that information, that immediately creates inefficiency. And that's, I guess, I go there and my paper will be lost. Okay. But if I can go online and the back end of that government services has been digitized, then I will be able to have access to it. And so apart from the efficiency that it creates, reduction of corruption, another thing that does to government is that some of these services then can be in a way that helps government even to make money.
Right.
And let me give you an example of just imagine having smart cameras in Accra, okay? And it is not a policeman that stops you, whether you've paid your insurance or there's a problem.
Yes.
But there is a system that picks your number. You cross the red light, it picks your number, it sends a ticket to you, and then you are going to pay digitally, whether using mobile money or whatever means. And if you don't pay, there is a way by which we can scan the car and know that you haven't paid. You see, what will happen is efficiency, you reduce corruption, and two, you give power to the citizen, and also safety for those who are on the road and want to obey the law. Because I know that if I misbehave, the camera will pick me, I'll receive a ticket, and if I get more than 3 tickets, my driver's license will be withdrawn, and I can't have access to that. Once you set example with that digitalization process, then you are creating value for citizens. You are creating revenue for government, and you are also forcing citizens to toe the right line.
Right.
Otherwise, you have to have the police everywhere, and we don't have enough money to hire police to be everywhere too. So that is the collaboration. So the private sector can think through some of these things and be able to work within the regulation that is given by the regulator, and interact with government to be able to give this information, get this information, and serve the citizens. So just imagine if we have an app that allows the police to do that, or for me to be able to check these things, but we don't have a back end that allows us to be able to get the necessary data from DVLA. It won't work.
Right.
Or we don't have the mobile money and the digital payment that allows me to be able to pay. Then we will be going to the court for somebody who just parked and the person could have just paid instead of going to waste time at the court. So these are so citizens, business people think about the solution, but we need the back ends of government, means of payment, to be able to make it very efficient.
So there has to be interconnectivity between all of these digital solutions in order for the ecosystem to actually make an impact. Okay, let's go to our friends from ABSA and MTN right now to talk about this as well. Now, you are both responsible for services and products that make life easier, I should say, for us. So we can make payments, whether it's through mobile money or through your bank. You can, conduct transactions online instead of walking to a banking hall. But then you're also faced with this kind of dichotomy between giving that convenient service, but then also some extra charges that might come to the consumer, which then probably defeats the purpose of the convenience, because now a consumer has to choose between spending a bit more for convenience or going the traditional way and saving a few bucks. Now, do you find that this kind of hinders the plans that you have for rapidly getting people onboarded for digital economy and and all of that? Or do you think it's just a glitch in the road, that it's growing pains essentially, and that once people realize the long-term benefit of these services, a little extra cost might not be that much of a hindrance to the expansion of the digital economy goals?
Sure. So yeah, maybe I'll take
Please
that.
go, Justice.
Yeah. So, and you're right, Koki. I mean, by our very nature and the way we are set up, I mean, it's to facilitate such activities, right? And now, in facilitating such activities, obviously there are investments that go into these items.
Right.
From a customer point of view, and what we've realized is customers always cherish the convenience.
Right.
And it does bring that. So when you take the traditional and you take the digital, the benefit that the customer receives, it's enormous in the sense that you would, let's say you're visiting a banking hall, pick transportation, right, to and fro,
Yes.
come in queue. Compare that to sitting in the comfort of your home and maybe paying a few CDs,
Yes.
right? You can't equate the two, right? And that's where I say the gold mine is. And for our customers, and I think what we've realized is our customers appreciate this, in that convenience allows you to be more effective and efficient when you are either a businessman or a businesswoman and you need to be on the go and deliver value to your clients as well. So rather than visiting a banking hall or a mobile money agent going through the hassle, this convenience is something that, I mean, you can't do away with. And I think it's quite important in the digitalization journey, because continuously this convenience will bring other forms of solutions, or do I say offerings from banks or telcos or whoever. And it's based on that we can build, I think, a solid foundation to further scale this digitalization agenda as we have it.
I think I probably have to agree with you with regard to weighing convenience and expense. You know, people don't often quantify the value of the time that they spend either commuting to a banking hall or, you know, or even standing in queue. Time is money. So to some degree, I suppose you're right that convenience possibly could outweigh a bit of cost. But let's find out from you, Ellie, as well. Your thoughts on this?
Well, thank you. Maybe just to add to what has been said, beyond the convenience is also the whole conversation around customer experience. Because experience is everything to the customer. So in the digital world, there are new experiences that makes the customer's experience different from what he would have had to do. Assuming you're going to the banking hall or you are walking into an agent point, depending on the distance and depending on the uncertainties on the way, you may get there, and maybe sometimes you find queues and other things. And in the whole experience, you end up having to either spend more time, you don't get the service because you might arrive there and the service might not be available. But with the digital side, because one, there is a lot of investment, as has been said, there is some level of certainty at the time that you are accessing the service. And if the service is available, you know it's available. And you access it, and you're able to also express yourself the way you want it. Because some of the experiences are also specific to your need. You don't have to now ask a teller or an agent the specifics. Those are things which are available. So you choose what you want, you select the experience the way you want it. And the value that comes with it is what you get. You know, so those changes the dynamics around the digital side and what the customer is exposed to. The fact that you can actually select things that suit you based on how you want the service to be delivered to you. So those dynamics also add to the value the customer is seeking, and therefore what the customer is then expending for that service. So that's what I'll add to the conversation.
Okay, and the conversation will continue. Again, if you're watching us virtually or if you're following online on our social media platforms, you can send us a message. You can send questions for our panelists. The hashtag is City Business Festival, and you can WhatsApp 0550-585832. We're talking about reimagining the digital economy, and there are several elements that we'll be exploring in our discussion. So once again, thanks to our sponsors for bringing us the City Business Festival. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll delve more into the discussion with our panelists, and we'll take some comments from those of you watching as well.
Whoever you're doing it for, we'll help you get it done. Simply. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
Araba, there are some people at the door. Go and tell them I have traveled to Russia.
Yes, Daddy.
Where's your father?
My father said I should tell you he has traveled to Russia.
Your father has killed me. I sent him money from America to complete my house for me.
Are all student association contributions?
Even the money from the fundraiser for Kweku's surgery.
Oh! He too? Don't be a victim. If you're contributing to a project, alumni dues, or any public campaign, Chango is your best choice. Chango keeps track of all donations and gives you the power to know exactly where the money goes. Chango is approved by Bank of Ghana. Call 0270-066-614 or visit changoapp.com for more information.
Uncle, my father is hiding under the bed.
Oh, Araba.
Chango for your groupings and crowdfunding.
Welcome back to our panel discussion on reimagining the digital economy. Yep, this is the City Business Festival 2022, and this is our very first forum for TV. All right, and you can tune in each and every Tuesday at 11 a.m. to join all of our discussions throughout the month of June. And on radio as well, every day we'll be bringing you snippets of discussions on 97.3 Citi FM. So do stay tuned throughout the month. Just to say another thank you to our sponsors, ABSA, MTN, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, IT Consortium, and to LifeMate Furniture for supporting the City Business Festival with these beautiful pieces of furniture, right? Now, IT Consortium sponsoring the Reimagining the Digital Economy Forum. Thank you, IT Consortium. And please do keep interacting with us on all of our social media handles. And the hashtag is Citi Business Festival. WhatsApp line is 0550 585832. We'll take some of your questions and comments for our panelists shortly. We're delving into the second aspect of today's discussion on reimagining the digital economy. Now, there are so many facets to this and so many things that have to work in harmony and in sync in order for us to truly benefit from what the digital economy can do for us. We need good infrastructure and internet connectivity. We need access for people who are on the periphery of the urban space, let's say, because we know that most infrastructural development is concentrated in our urban centers. We need more education as well, so our IT education in our educational institutions, and then to rope in people who maybe don't have that much knowledge and information about what digitization is all about. Now, in order for all of this to work, we need all of the actors who are here with us, the regulator and the rest of you as well. The question is, of all these things that need to work, which should government prioritize for the digital movement to be successful? Which aspect should be a priority for governments in order for this to work? Kwame.
I think it's important to make the point that government's policy environment creates that enabling environment that guides this process. Because ultimately, government leads these efforts.
Right.
And has to, whether from behind or from in front, government, as a standard, as part of this process, has to guide that process. And there are different components to that, right? So there are various policy interventions that could look at different aspects of it. So you mentioned financial inclusion. Ghana actually has a national financial inclusion and development strategy. Out of that, there's a digital financial service policy that has been developed. There is a Ghana digitization roadmap that has been developed out of the digital financial service policy that has detailed, and that's actually an implementation document that has detailed what exactly needs to be done. It includes ensuring interoperability, having a government payment platform, which we recently saw with Ghana.gov, and we're seeing the benefits of that, and several elements of it. And if you work your way back through all these documents, you see a clear blueprint of a vision of how we get to that destination. And these documents are a charter that involves all stakeholders and reflects the aspirations of us all as a country, reflects our realities, and also reflects what we think the opportunities are for us within our current context and potentially what's ahead.
Okay.
And so, in addition to all of that is also the role of regulators, for instance, because I think if you look at digitization, technology is the enabler for digitization, obviously, and technology is neutral. But often you also have to recognize the fact that applying technology to the area of healthcare does not still make it exclusively technology. There's an aspect of regulation to ensure safety, security, and ultimate safety of individuals, for instance. Similarly, one critical aspect of society and our livelihoods is the economy, and is banking, payments, and financial transactions, for instance. And so what can government do to lead this effort? So if you look at least, let me speak from a Bank of Ghana perspective, for the last a little over 2 decades, in the early 2000s, you see a clear vision to build a retail payment ecosystem that has resulted in what we have today. That has not been a straightforward journey, but it's been a learning journey, carefully thought through planning, collaborative efforts, engagement of various stakeholders to keep iterating until we get certain things right, and what does not work right, we keep going through that process again. But the ultimate vision of building an active, dynamic, and seamless retail payment ecosystem anchored on our financial banking infrastructure as a country has actually served us well. And if you go to other central banks in other countries within the region, you can actually see this blueprint also replicated there. Now, do we stop there? Absolutely not. I think we've come this far, but there's a lot more we can do. So if you recently may have heard about the ECD, for instance, that's another example, and I knew you'd ultimately come there. But that's another example of government sitting back, and at least from the central bank perspective, sitting back and looking at where the economy is going, what the preferences of individuals are as it stands, and what the shift is as a society, what the aspirations of these financial service providers who are regulated entities and these payment service providers, what their goals are and where they are headed, and the benefit they can bring to us as a society from an investment perspective, from a financial inclusion perspective, which lifts part of our population out of poverty, out of being in the distance and the periphery, as you described, and even the employment opportunity that it brings to all of us. And so what can we also do? Now, as an active facilitator of that digital economy, we also began to explore and pursue that. What is our role in future? Are we going to continue providing an architecture that perhaps works today and may work a day and a half away, but over the long term, is this going to be where we can be? The answer may not necessarily be yes. Unfortunately, it seems we'd have to do something more, and that's all part of why we're looking at this ECD, for instance, which is something that is actually going to be available to everyone.
Okay, so since you're here, perhaps you can educate the public a bit about exactly what the ECD is and what it seeks to do. Again, we hear a lot about it in the news, read about it, but I can guarantee you the average Ghanaian is looking at this thinking, what on earth is an ECD? And why is the Bank of Ghana trying to introduce this? So you've got a few minutes. Maybe you can just tell us.
Okay, so let me first make this point that our goal is to make sure that we don't disrupt too much.
Okay.
Our goal is to make sure that we're redesigning and enabling the current economy to be able to operate on a digital version of the Citi. Today we have notes.
Yes.
Citi notes, we have Citi coins.
Right.
The ECD is a digital version, a dematerialized version of that. So it is not cryptocurrency. It is not a stable coin.
Okay.
It is Citi. And often I like to, I hear a lot of conversations and it keeps getting mixed up.
I think it's good that you make that distinction.
Absolutely. In fact, most CBDC, a central bank digital currency, does not have to be a cryptocurrency. It doesn't have to use cryptography.
Okay.
It does not even have to. But what we have sought to do is to, and what we're piloting now, is a digital version of the Citi, which will be secure. It's not, typically you ask the question, can it be converted to Citi? No, it is Citi. It is fiat. It's legal tender. It can be accepted anywhere. It can be used by anyone. And therefore, in that future, where your lifestyle is digital, much more digital than it is today, you're no longer using it for services. You have to convert the physical form of cash into digital before. Now, we provide that physical form of cash. If we could support, and this is where I bring up the point about enablement. So as part of this pilot, there's a mobile money operator, there's a fintech, IT consortium, and there's a bank. Because down the line, these are the people who are just like today. They take these funds and spend it. They help you spend it as consumers. And when you think of the digital Citi, I think you can just think of it very simply from its usage perspective. Today, you can put cash in your bank account and spend it. You can also put cash in your wallet and spend it.
Right.
Our goal has been to be able to replicate both. So you can have your ECD in a bank account or a wallet from an authorized institution, or you could also have it in an offline wallet as you would have cash in your pocket.
Okay.
And we spent a great deal of time working on the back end to make sure that the right governance, security frameworks, the regulatory implications, the anti-money laundering and terrorism financing concerns, all these aspects have been addressed.
Okay.
But one aspect that the governor recently spoke about, which has to do with the offline testing in Sefiasa, for instance, that's near and dear to our hearts because it specifically is looking at the financial inclusion aspects of our society. We have several of the members of our society who are not within the financial sector, the formal financial sector, largely because I think mobile money, banks, and fintechs have done a great job in this country in helping push success from a financial inclusion standpoint, bringing people into the formal financial sector, giving people access to financial services. But unfortunately, we're restricted to where the network ends. Yes. Now, beyond the network, what happens next? Right? And there are very few countries who perhaps have 100% network coverage. They are still businesses, as telecom companies and the rest. So we understand, and government is always working with them to extend coverage. And so we went and did an objective assessment of the country and picked the location and went out there and tested an offline version of the Citi where I can pay Romeo, Romeo can pay you, he can pay Ellie, Ellie pays Justice, and he can pay me back in an offline environment. Now think about it.
Okay.
If you take a smallholder farmer, that farmer is actually conducting transactions in their community.
Yes.
They're buying salt, they're buying oil, they're buying rice, and they're buying inputs. They're buying fertilizers, they're buying seeds. The problem is, if a bank or a lending institution goes there, you don't have the records on that farmer to lend to them. How do you get information on them? That does not mean they don't have an economic footprint. It's just not visible to you.
Right.
So if we could replace the means with which they're paying, which is the physical notes and coins, perhaps with a digital version of the Citi. Now suddenly, even within that offline environment, when a bank or a mobile money operator or anyone goes in there, with of course the consent of the customer, they can access the customer's transaction records and begin to create access, begin to build products such as lending, savings and investment products for them. The education part is another aspect that I think is more broader, but at least you begin to solve the two key elements of financial inclusion. And that's why that market linkage is important for us.
We'll probably have to have a whole session on ECD at some point. But still back to the initial question about the priority areas and which areas should be prioritized in us achieving this goal. And while we're answering as well, do we have the kind of data that would inform the decisions that you would take, or your reason for saying maybe we should prioritize this or that? What kind of data do we have to back these kinds of decisions? So Romeo, you talk about the priority area that you think should be a focus for us.
I think that aside the financial side, and I think normally when we talk digitization, especially in the space of mobile money, fintechs and things like that, our main attention goes to the monetary aspect, which is, I mean, we all want money, so
of course
that is fine. But I think that when it comes to the infrastructure side, it's very, very important. I mean, yes, government is doing something, but it will also help if government is helping the private sector, those that are involved in the backbone infrastructure. Because mobile money works because there's an infrastructure.
Of course.
You know, sometimes people, somebody says that it's spirit money, but it is. Mobile money has thrived because there has been infrastructure that is moving it. So as governments try to expand the use of digital economy, expand it, we should also see how we can help with the private sector expansion of infrastructure. And also encourage a lot of local companies in the digitization of government services. Kwame talked about Ghana.gov. That focuses on payments. Okay. I mean, yesterday the Commissioner General talked about we being able to file our tax. That is fine. I looking forward to never to go to GRA office to file my personal tax. Okay. So that is good. But we need to be able to set a deadline for digitizing all government services, the back end. An example is birth and death, which they're looking at. I mean, when you lose a loved one and you have to go through that process, then you see that it is not just money. So some of those things are things that we need to prioritize as government. And these things, when what we call the soft infrastructure is done, will help the young companies to be able to provide services that will enhance, I mean, the lifestyle of our citizens. You take an example. I saw something from a Ashasi student. They've developed something that caught my attention, and it is a robot that is used in cleaning solar panels. Okay, and you have to take the solar panel, this robot, to the top of the building, and then you manipulate it. If we have sensors on it, and you develop an app, these sensors are cheap. You develop an app that reads from that sensor and has a camera that is able to look at the surface and know that there is dirt, and when there is dirt, it reduces the power of the panel to be able to generate energy. And you are able to link this to payment. What will happen is that a bank can give money to a company that produces this robot to produce the robot and allow them to actually give it to people using the panel without they buying it. Why? Because it becomes like an on-lending where I don't need to buy this equipment, but I can have access to it and pay small monies, and the money is digitized, so it will go straight to the bank. I use my mobile money, maybe I set up a recurring payment, and I'm able to do that. What will happen is that this technology that has been developed in an university in Ghana can easily to be turned into a commercial entity. And there is the infrastructure already there to be able to support it because of the digital money that we are dealing with. And then you open an access to people doing research in smart cameras. And before you realize, you are creating an economy that never existed. You see? So normally when we look at these things, our minds immediately goes to the financial side, which is good. But we need to look at the other side of the economy, the other side of data that we require, the support of young people in the universities, and not only in the universities, but I am hoping that the banks, as they set up innovation hubs within, will not just be looking at financials, but be looking at systems that can be supported from the universities and grow them and create jobs. I mean, as a company, we have a unit that trains young people and does research in some of these areas. And every year we bring in quite a number of students to give them access to our infrastructure to be able to continue to build things. And we are hoping that as government improve the back ends of our systems and help our telecoms and to create the soft infrastructure. And I must say that one thing that government is pushing that we really need to give more push to is the Ghana card. Yes, I mean, I was really happy yesterday at the CEO summit when the vice president said that in about a year, by the end of this year, when you give birth, your child will be given Ghana card at birth.
At birth.
And that will make sure that we know everybody in this country. That will help the bank in terms of lending. That will bring fraud and things like that as we experience in our ecosystem. And that will make us safe when we know everyone. So when you do things, you know that you'll be known.
You're being tracked and traced.
No, not tracked.
And as you're talking about which area you think should be prioritized, just to talk about something that Romeo just mentioned, for instance, the example he gave about the birth and death registry, which should be something very basic, right, to digitize those records. Yet we've got a Ghana card coming fine, we've got payment systems online, we've got all of this, but there's still some basics that we're missing. Do you think we're getting ahead of ourselves in some regard, or do you think that you can do concurrently technological advancements, digitization of certain things, while still trying to fix some of the basics that we've missed along the way?
Yeah, thanks. So yes, I think we can handle it concurrently, right? And the thing is this, technology is continuously evolving. So you can't draw a line in the sand and say, I'm going to start off or stop at this point while looking at the other. So it's important that everything goes in tandem. Now, on the basis of that, once you are implementing the technology, it's important that you are pulling the people along, right? And I think that's why Romeo was highlighting around the digital skills, or empowering people with skills to be able to utilize this technology. I think Kwame made reference to the digital currency and piloting in Safia Safo.
Right.
That's brilliant. And the reason is this. By that one activity, you are tackling the digital divide, right? Because most often than not, we are focusing on the urban areas.
Yes.
But being able to go to the rural areas, have the ECD there, overlay it with your Ghana card, obviously the footprint for the bank to follow becomes easier. So for me, the focus areas, infrastructure, obviously, your Ghana card, your payments, retail payments ecosystem, those are there, but also focusing on the people and taking the citizenry along this journey is quite important. And at ABSA, we make sure that our engagements with our clients seeks to put forth this skill set, i.e. your digital skills, that will empower you to go to the next level, right? So I think it's one key area that the government shouldn't lose sight of. And I think on the second point is the government should as well just reinforce the gains that we've obtained, over the last couple of years, right? Because I think a tremendous amount of work has gone into setting up the ecosystem between fintechs, regulator, etc. I think it's brilliant, but we should continue. And I think the ECD is one of the steps in the right direction. Okay. We just should reinforce that and ensure that, we have the necessary takeoff that we're looking for.
Okay, great. And Ellie, your thoughts on which areas should be prioritized?
Well, I think a lot has been said. One area which is important is the kind of tools that consumers need to be able to consume these digital services, so devices. And I know a lot has been said in terms of how we can make mobile phones as cheap as possible so that people can buy. Because today we still have a lot of customers using the very basic phones,
as they say, as they are termed.
And with that, there are a lot of limitations in terms of the experience that people can have. So how do we make those devices available to customers at prices that they can afford, so that it changes the whole experience? Because, to do a transaction using your USSD, and to do that same thing with an app, they are two different worlds.
True.
And the experience is different in terms of everything else that it comes with. So I think the devices coming in at prices that will be affordable to customers would expand the adoption, because the experience itself will begin to lend to people wanting to do more, because the experience is just great. And so that would get people trying a lot of other things because they have, and we all know how these things can even become addictive because of just the whole experience you are getting. People just get locked in. Of course, people will talk about that as the negative side, but you need to make those things available, and it's an area that requires government support as well, because as business people try and bring these things in, how do you make it easier for them to achieve the level of pricing or price points that would deliver? And how do we also begin to look at local investments into setting up these things? Yes. Because I don't think it would be too much that we have the ability to assemble these things locally.
It shouldn't be.
Because beyond the fact that we are now creating an experience change for our people, we're also putting jobs into the youth. And Yomi was talking about getting people to do things like this. So those are very important things that I think it helps once there is focus on that. Businesses are sort of encouraged to be able to invest in those things to sort of expand their space. Because I don't think we are there yet in terms of the level of smartphones that we have in the economy. And then once we can achieve that, then the other part is just how we can bring the customer's level of knowledge in terms of when he has this, how effective those devices can be. And those are education. So those ones will come along as we go.
Okay, we've got some messages coming in from those of you watching. Remember, you can hashtag Citi Business Festival, and you can send a message to us on WhatsApp. It's 0550-585832. We're talking about reimagining the digital economy, and we've just been asking our panelists their thoughts on which areas of the digital movement that government should prioritize. And they've given us their take on that, and I'll read a few of your messages as well. I want the guests to tell Ghanaians the positive and negative effects of political influence on digitization of the economy of a country like Ghana using their own professional skills. For example, the way the e-levy was implemented in Ghana. Okay, this is coming from Mohammed in Tamale. Also, hello, good afternoon. The definition of digital economy, please. Well, you missed it. We had that discussion at the beginning of the show, and each of our panelists gave their thoughts on that. My name is Crescents. Digital economy has become a cliche across the globe due to its numerous benefits, but it unfortunately breeds some challenges like cybersecurity and much more. How is Ghana managing cybersecurity as a challenge to our digital economy and the ordinary Ghanaian, especially the non-IT savvy ones? That's a good one. Maybe we'll ask Romeo about that. Also from Philip, a big shout out to Justice from the enablement team. But my question is to Ellie. How do you handle government interference in the progress of the digital economy, especially in a developing country like ours? Ale Kwame, today the questions are coming at you. Speaking of technology and how it drives the economy, technology is dependent on internet connectivity and broadband. It's a major issue. I don't hear many people discussing it. How is MTN and other ISPs ensuring strong connectivity with 4G, or better still, introducing 5G? So this is Melchizedek who sent this on Facebook. Ellie and the panel, in order to enhance the digital experience of customers, I think there should be a cap on the e-levy tax component on electronic transfers. Kwame. That's PACA on Facebook. And Daniel says, have we been able to quantify the contribution of digitization to the GDP of Ghana? Well, maybe you can give us some info on that if you've got the data, Kwame. But I'll let them marinate on these questions a bit. When we come back from the break, maybe we'll tackle a few of them. Then we'll go into the next point of discussion, which is what business opportunities exist for Ghanaian entrepreneurs with this whole digitalization movement. What are the opportunities out there if you're an entrepreneur? So do stay tuned. This is the Citi Business Festival, and it's our discussion on reimagining the digital economy.
Creamy Plus is a fully skimmed evaporated milk. Creamy Plus is available in a shop near you.
This message has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
You're still watching our discussion on reimagining the digital economy here on the Citi Business Festival panel discussion. And again, if you're joining us virtually or if you're watching us on Citi TV, keep sending in your questions. 0550-585832, that's the number. And you can hashtag Citi Business Festival. We're still here with our panelists, and some of you have sent in questions already. So we'll tackle a couple of them, then we'll go into our next point of discussion. So there was a question about cybersecurity, which, yes, is a major, major concern. How safe is my information in cyberspace? When I'm using any digital platform, how do I know that it's secure? So I think we'll go to you, Romeo, and then maybe Kwame can touch on this as well.
Okay, so thank you. Yes, I mean, as we digitize information and payment and things like that, the people move from the physical to the digital.
Yes.
And I think that one thing that helps with protecting information starts with regulation and things like that. So data protection, cybersecurity laws and policies, and then technology that we are supposed to deploy. So Bank of Ghana gives us standard that we are supposed to follow.
Okay.
And that helps us to be able to secure our systems. And I think that there is, I can't remember, but yesterday I heard about an institution, government institution, that is responsible for that, creating standards and those kind of things. Okay. And this is also creating a new economy in the digital space. So people with knowledge about how to protect your system don't try to do things on your own thinking that you can cover everything. There are people who are trained in that, who have systems that can secure whatever you are doing, and people who can advise you as to what to do.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is very important is that because of the nature of the thing that we do, especially in the financial space, the regulator helps us a lot with the standard that we are supposed to follow. And also, so there's another investment side that could help with infrastructure that seeks to be able to protect data of people, and a system that we put in place also to enable users to be part of the security. You know, there are some security systems that are very basic. I always use it. If you have your house and you lock it and you leave the key in front of the keyhole and you go out, you've locked it, but you've left the key.
Right.
There are a lot of people who will log into systems and just leave it like that. There are some basic things that we need to know to protect ourselves, apart from the things that regulators and knowledgeable people will help us. The first thing is make sure that your password is kept secure. A lot of the issues, fraud that we hear, especially in these technology and payment system, are re-engineering. Somebody calls you and tells you a story.
Yes.
You haven't entered any draw, and the person says you have won something, and you just follow through. That aside, there are operating systems that we use that inherently will have some loopholes. And so if you are constantly not updating to the current systems, or you are fan of taking software that has not been paid for, most of it will have loopholes. And then people can actually use backdoor to enter your system and be able to take information. Sometimes when we talk about these things, we just think about the financials. But taking your identity imprint is another thing that people can use to be able to defraud you or do something that towards you. So first, cybersecurity is important, and I think government is doing something about it. There are companies in this country that are helping businesses to do what they have to do, and individuals will also have to take personal responsibility of their data.
Fantastic. Yeah, Kwame.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Kukui. And I think Romeo makes an important point. And to be fair, the cybersecurity concern is a major concern for everyone, for us as a regulator and for regulators globally. And within the context of Bank of Ghana, we had a Cyber and Information Security Directive to at least guide the operations of the entities we supervise. Now, what that means is it at least defines some basic standards to make sure that they are protected, their customers are protected, and the overall sector is safe and secure, which is what our goal is. Unfortunately, the human being is always the weakest link in some instances, as Romeo described. You get a call from someone who says you're from the MTN tree department.
Exactly.
You know there isn't that. I mean, just things like that. You've won a prize, something you didn't participate in. These are things that have been there forever. It just happens to be playing out within our space today. But I just want to make a quick point about the support that is provided. So from a regulatory standpoint, it's not just defining a regulatory framework, but also Bank of Ghana has worked on a financial sector security operations center, for instance, to make sure that we can collaborate. Sometimes it's about information sharing and the efficiency with which we share information regarding cyber and information security threats. And so that coordinating point, for instance, and that coordination function is important. And that's where, again, that intervention helps the overall ecosystem. We recognize the fact that there are young people who have to be able to also express their creative talents by bringing solutions that address the needs of individuals and citizens, including the marginalized. And we've been encouraging that over the years. But we're also mindful about the fact that there are risks to some of these technologies. And especially, technology itself is neutral, but when you bring it into the financial sector itself is regulated. So how do we make sure the consumer is protected? How do we make sure you are protected as an operator, right, or an entity? How do we make sure your employees are protected? And so we define some standards, but sometimes those standards are a bit high, reasonably so, because they have to be. They have to be high enough to protect the overall ecosystem. But at the same time, we are always balancing the desire to also make sure that we're given an opportunity for young creative ideas and innovations, such as Romeo mentioned earlier, and all these all folks in the ecosystem have been trying to promote as well. So we try to work with industry to find creative ways to make this happen. So if you look at our licensing structure, for instance, there are some requirements in there that says you need to have PCI DSS, which is a card security standard, data security standard. But we also recognize that the costs and the means of attaining that is a bit high for a very young entrepreneur and innovator. And so we give them the opportunity to go through another party who has that level of security, so that you're creating a balance between creating access, but at the same time as well, ensuring that you're not exposing the system to risks.
Right.
So these are some of the creative ways, and it's not a perfect situation, but we continue to evolve because the threat itself that we are concerned about continues to evolve.
Of course.
But we've reached the barrier of retreat, and so this is something we're going to have to live with and work together on.
Okay, since you have the floor, just quickly, could you address these questions? One person talked about the e-levy, and we did kind of mention it earlier that in implementing something like the e-levy, is it also kind of shooting yourself in the foot? You're trying to encourage people to use more digital technology, but at the same time, charging an extra cost for it. So for people who are curious about the impact of something like an e-levy tax, what do you have to say?
So I potentially, on behalf of the rest of the panelists, let me attempt to address that concern that has been raised. The Electronic Transactions Levy Act has an act of parliament. It was debated, it was discussed, and I think the concerns that have been shared have been discussed in that forum as well. Ultimately, it's now been passed, it's law of the land, and the Revenue Authority is actively working to implement it to its full scale. Whatever the case is and what would be, I think government itself, both the Ministry of Finance and government overall, has made a point that they will continue to monitor and make the necessary decisions as it goes along.
Okay.
And for as long as that remains the case, I think all of us in here are obligated to ensure that it is effectively operating, and that's as far as it goes. I think the discussion, this does not preclude any other discussions outside of that, but we respect that, and let's see how the process plays out.
We'll leave it there on the e-levy discussion. Okay, we'll talk about other matters concerning our topic for today. Now, job opportunities or business opportunities that might come out of our digital movement. Okay, here's an example. So you have a company that prints textbooks. Now, let's say government says, look, we want to get textbooks online for children to access. We're not really going to be patronizing hard copy books as much. Now, here you are, you're a printer, you've invested in your machinery, you've got all these textbooks printed and less patronage because now there's a move for ebooks. What do you do? Now, is this digital movement going to be a boost for entrepreneurship or a bane? Let's start with you, Justice.
Thanks. So definitely a boost for entrepreneurs, right? And the main reason is this. Adopting digital technologies allows you to scale quickly, and broadens your reach, right? So I'm of the printer conversation that you highlighted. You have a brick and mortar in a specific location.
Yes.
At best, you'd be advertising in traditional media, right? If you have the capacity to do so. Possibly word of mouth, but you are restricted in that ecosystem. Till someone walks through, you don't have that, opportunity to sell as much as you'd like. And now pick that scenario and place it in a digital setting,
Okay.
right? You have your books in an electronic version, an online portal, social media marketing.
Yeah.
The word is out. Just in the comfort of your office, you've been able to spread the word around what you're offering. And now also the cost to produce will ultimately be reduced, right? Because once you're able to get a digitized version of that, it's there.
Right.
And you could even make some fees from it, right? But in a nutshell, the thing is this. It tackles the inefficiencies that we have with the traditional setting. So for entrepreneurs, like I was saying, that reach and that online presence is something that, I mean, it's enormous, and the entrepreneurs have to take advantage of. I think the other is the ability to scale quickly, which I was alluding to. The traditional setting, you need to set up the brick and mortar investments, possibly need to come to a bank, a loan, etc., right? But compare that to being able to set it in one fell swoop. I think the third for me when it comes to entrepreneurs is that now with all of this, you have the opportunity to innovate, okay? And innovation in the sense that you're offering a service. You're definitely going to be having feedback from your customers, new ideas, opinions on how you could do things better. Digital allows you, by you being or you having an online presence, to solicit that feedback much quicker, much easier, get insights from these feedback, and then improve your process, as it were. So if it's the book, online book that you were alluding to, right? Feedback on how you've set up, how easy it is to see other options of books that you have on offer. All of that is cured online, and you will get that feedback. And by getting that feedback, you're able to improve your business and obviously move into areas that hitherto you weren't exploring. So for me, I think those are the three key items for entrepreneurs. And I think it's something that entrepreneurs should latch on to and ensure that they get the needed advantage.
Ellie, opportunities for entrepreneurs in this digital movement, in the digital economy. What do you have to say on that?
Well, I think Justice has talked about it, but just to highlight the fact that from the example you gave, in these kinds of revolution, people lose, people gain. So first of all, that's it. Okay. It depends.
It's the reality of the situation.
It's the reality. Yeah. If things happen, there will be winners, there will be losers in every scenario. And what is important is how quickly businesses adapt to the changing trends. Because I think in the earlier discussions we said that technology is going. I mean, when we started mobile money, we started not because we were ready.
No.
It was because at the time, that was what was happening. And there was a need to get on with it. So I can tell you at the time that the regulation, and I know that the way we've evolved around regulation, the regulations we started with, I'm sure if you see it today and you say, wow, is this what we launched mobile money with? Wow. To what we have today, huge difference in terms of the level of improvement we've brought on board. And today we have the, the payment systems and bill. Now, that tells you that a lot of the things that have happened because technology is going.
You just have to keep up with it.
Yes, you just have to keep up. And then we also need to come along. So regulation has tried to run to catch up.
Okay.
That's essentially what I'm saying. So in that same environment, you need to adapt. And we always heard about the example of the Kodak and not adapting, and digital cameras have come and things have moved on.
Polaroid.
So once you don't get on, you lose out. So for that person, he now needs to ask him or herself, what's the next thing to do? And like Justice said, you can digitize those books. The initial cost may be quite a challenge, but once you go past that phase and you've built the business, the rest of it, the gains are enormous because he talked about scalability. that book is now available to everybody across the world.
True.
Remember, they can access it. And because there are digital forms of paying for that service, he doesn't have to come to your shop to give you physical funds. He can do that transaction online. He can access the books. And what it also means is that for you, your cost of distribution has suddenly just been significantly reduced. Because don't forget, in the traditional means, you have had to carry the books either on a bike or something to the locations before you can distribute them. But now it can be accessed anytime.
Anywhere.
You know, so that gives you that scope as well. Then he talked about innovation. So in that same space now, there will be different ways of reaching the customer in terms of access to the books. And so then now gives you the options that you can throw to the customer in terms of the experience. Because these days, you know, we have audiobooks.
Yes.
So it's just not reading.
Right.
You can play and listen.
Yes.
So that's another version of the same book that is being offered to the customer. And the experiences now begins to change the dynamics. So the innovation becomes a key thing there. And remember that there are different aspects of this whole digital economy. And for businesses, you would need to sit back and look at where the potential is looking. Today, we have a lot of payment solutions because that is what is happening. Then you ask the question to Romeo about cybersecurity and what kind of investment needs to go there to support the whole ecosystem. So people can also move into that space and add value and support, because there will be definitely need for institutions to support other developers around how they can enhance their cybersecurity environment, you know, beyond the basic things that they would know. So that level of skill will also be important. And then the whole solutions and services that are available today.
Yes.
Which of them do you want to? Right now we are talking about e-health.
Yes.
Insurance is now gone digital.
Yeah.
You don't need to walk into an office to buy insurance. You can buy insurance online, everything. So as for the opportunities, they are enormous. It is just identifying where you believe you have the skill and where you want to invest, and looking at that space and then going there. We are also doing digitizing our grid today. And I can tell you, there was someone who walked to my office and we were discussing how we can digitize the spraying of farms. Yes. And he was looking at the drone technology. Okay? So just to give you a snippet. So you sit in your comfort of your house, you are a farmer.
Right.
You go onto the portal or you log on, and then you indicate the location of your farm. Okay, because you can provide that digitally. So then you request for the service.
Okay.
So they pick your location, they set up the drone. Depending on what farm it is and what kind of insecticides that are required, it is all set up. And then the drone goes, does the spraying, and comes back.
And that's it.
Job done, paid for. Now, in that kind of environment, there's also a lot of efficiency, because remember, this company is well vexed in the area of spraying. So the efficiency of the chemicals will be there. There will be less wastage. You don't buy big drums of chemical you don't need. So you only buy and pay for what is enough for your farm. So you save on that. You don't keep excess insecticide or stock. So by the time you finish, this person has created a job for himself, but he's also reaching out and providing services to farmers. So that's the extent to which the thinking is going. And we are at that point where it's just beginning. Yeah.
We've only scratched the surface, I think. But Romeo, having said that, it's also, and I guess it's the same even in traditional commerce or whatever you want to say. There's this survival of the fittest kind of thing going on. You've got so many people developing similar apps, starting similar online businesses, and everything is Uberized. So even the example you just gave of a farmer who needs his farm sprayed, someone's going to match him with a drone. You know, we've got the Ubers, the Bolts, we've got the food delivery services, so many of them. So you see similar companies cropping up because of the ease of now doing business online. As an entrepreneur, you're in this ecosystem. How do you find your feet? How do you then say, okay, yes, it's competition, and that's the nature of business, but with all of the other noise going around on, you know, online media, digital economy, how does an entrepreneur find that space and that niche where they can actually benefit from it and not get crowded out by everyone else who's doing similar or the same thing?
So as an entrepreneur, you need to first identify a problem.
Right.
And you can monetize the problem. Then you have a business. And you have to continuously think. Because, you know, the era of communication center.
Wow. You went there.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you've gone way back.
Everybody went into communication center.
Yeah.
Okay, some survived, some died, and technology came and took them away. So the infrastructure is there. I mean, once you're able to allow people to make payments, it then gives people the opportunity to do things to make money. Okay? If you don't have the issue of payment solved, then no matter what you do, you can't benefit from it.
Okay.
So there are a lot of things that you can do. I mean, and here I'm speaking directly to young people, especially in the universities, but also to ordinary ones that might not have been gone to the university. There are people who are doing things, designing vehicles, things that they didn't go to school.
Right.
Okay, so when we speak, it is not that knowledge is with only the people who go to the formal school. But because it is formalized, it helps us to be able to train them and help them to do things. Let me give you an example of the book. How somebody can pick it up, come up with a technology that even beats just digitizing it. There are books now for children that they can read on the device, on the tablet. And when they get to a word that they don't know, they point it and it speaks to them. There are kids who struggle with reading. That solves that issue. That improves reading. That enhances the potential of that young person. Okay, so somebody could have digitized the books and it's available online. Because of that, somebody brings, and he talks about audiobooks. Okay, so instead of just reading everything audio, the person is bringing innovation to that small part and building a business out of it. So the person who develops that then sells that to the one that has digitized it or the one that is writing a book, and then will be able to. There are books that you touch and then it plays, and it's playing a scene of what is in the book. Children would want to see things move. Okay, so you are solving a problem that exists that people have not even recognized. And so once we are in this digitized age, it creates so many opportunities for people. We need to think. The guy who sells books at the roadside might lose out. And that is what we are saying.
Yes.
That person might lose out. But it will take time. So as you get your 1 CD selling that book, don't think that that business is going to be there forever. You remember the underpass at East Legon?
Oh, yes.
Okay, the guys who used to stand there, collect money, and then they had a box there, and people were putting money, and before they realized a tunnel has been opened, and they said, "Oh, have mercy on us, we are losing our job because a tunnel has been opened." Whatever you do, tunnels will be open. And so you have to begin to think about, so what can I do? I always tell the students, never go to school thinking about somebody employing you. What can I do? Not all of us can do something, but if you have a desire to do that, do something. It could just be rearing of grass cutter and add technology to it. And before you realize, you are feeding a whole country There's a story of a young guy who did computer science or computer engineering. His father knew people, so he could get access to big companies. They got him there. The guy went to school, went there, and told the father that he doesn't want to stay there. I said, look, let me use maybe MTN as an example. You've got an MTN, and people are trying to get there. I said, no, he wants to sell shawarma. Oh. The father called us so furious. And he said, what does it? I said, leave him. This guy did not put up a kitchen, but started selling shawarma, and he couldn't handle the demand.
The demand.
And it was because he was thinking, because he's realized that people love it for lunch. In that period, they want something small. So he creates something that you can go and order shawarma. He doesn't have a kitchen. He has somebody who does it. So he's created a job for the person. The person doesn't know the market, but he has the app. And then people are ordering. And this kitchen, the guy doesn't have a kitchen, but he was selling shawarma. So you see, when it comes to creating jobs, the first thing is to disabuse your mind of somebody creating the job for you. Okay. And thinking about looking at the ecosystem. Payment is solved. What can I do to make sure that others can have access to the solution that maybe I'm thinking about? And talk to people. Talk to people. They can chip in ideas. Ghanaians like going solo. I don't believe in that. They will say that, somebody will steal your ideas. Whatever you do, before you start thinking about somebody has thought about it.
Has already thought about it.
So I will encourage, especially our university students, once you get there, visit markets, visit deprived areas, visit places where you can just sit and look for problems. Ghana is rich because we have problems. Yes. Ghana is rich because we have problems. If you go to an advanced country, a lot of the things have been done.
Yes.
But when you're in a country where there are problems, that is where you have solutions.
There's opportunity.
And then the opportunities are there. So I will encourage us not to be discouraged about the problems in this country. I think we spend too much time talking about problems and we forget about the solutions that exist in the problem. So when we have opportunity, let's create hope in the young people. Let them know that because we have problems, we will have solutions. And think about a solution and do something. Never think that you have to get the big bucks before you start something.
Yeah.
Start something and somebody could back you.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. On that note, when we come back, we'll speak with the rest of our panelists about positioning your business in this digital economy. So again, how do you stand out? What's your position? What's your selling point, actually, in this whole ecosystem? Don't forget to send your messages and questions as well. 0550-585832. That's the WhatsApp line. And you can hashtag Citi Business Festival. We'll be right back.
Whoever you're doing it for, we'll help you get it done. Simply. That's Africanacity. That's APSA.
Creamy Plus is a fully skimmed evaporated milk. Creamy Plus is available in a shop near you.
This message has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
You're still watching the Citi Business Festival panel discussion on reimagining the digital economy. And we're going to continue our conversation on how to position yourself as a business to benefit from the digital economy and all of the opportunities that it presents. So I'm going to come to Justice, okay, on positioning and businesses trying to stand out, I guess, amongst the crowd, and how to find your unique selling point such that you can, again, benefit from what the digital economy can give you. So let's start with you on this.
Sure, thanks. So positioning, it's quite important, right? I think earlier on we're making the point around other people haven't thought up what you've thought up now, right? So there needs to be a differentiator. And for me, I think the differentiator should be how you serve your customers, right? Okay. In terms of the customer experience, right? And now, obviously, any service you're offering is for a customer, right? But how you tailor that offering to suit the needs of the customer, because the customer's needs continuously changing, and being able to adapt to those needs and ensure that the customer is satisfied at any point in time will be key to you in positioning your business, right? You know, I think the other thing that's quite important is how you're able to make use of data. Now, all of the digitization going on is bringing out data. And I always say that data trumps opinions on any day.
Yes, it
so
does.
Being able to make use of that data, understand what exactly is happening with your business at any point in time, how you could quickly, fine-tune your business so that you're in a position that sets you apart from competition is quite key. So data, getting the insights, data intelligence, that'll be two of the ways, customer experience, data intelligence, two of the ways that you can position yourself to stand out from other competitors.
Like that. Yeah. Ellie, talking about positioning, I mean, as a market leader, I'm sure you can appreciate what it takes to stand above the competition and to keep, making yourselves competitive in that regard. So when entrepreneurs are thinking about positioning their businesses, what advice do you have for them?
Well, first of all, I think Romeo talked about identifying your unique proposition. What problem do you want to solve? But I think once you are there, there are few things, and just three of them.
Okay.
The first one is the whole issue of innovation. Innovation, because you would have to keep innovating as fast as you can to stay ahead. I mean, like he said, by the time you are thinking of something, somebody has also thought about it. So how quickly have you gone to market? Take advantage of that quickly before competition is at that level. You've taken it to the next level. You've brought something new. Even
if you're not fully ready, like in the way you said.
Yes. The beauty of readiness is what can you control? What can you control? Because what you can control means that can take you. Because once you go at a level that you can control, then you may not be 100%, but you can get going. I talked about where we came from with regulation. If we were waiting to get PSSA, I'm not sure we would have started mobile money then.
Wow.
But we started it, and then we built along the way, and we've evolved, we've improved. So you can control. So innovation is important. Investment. Because you see, if you don't also invest, then you are not going to get the new technologies and the new things that would create the level that you want to be at the customer point, where you can be able to create the needed customer interest and adoption. Then the other one is on how you reach the customer, the channels that are available for you to reach the customer, because you should make it easy for the customer to access your products or to access your solution. So innovation, investment, and then your channels of access of the service to the customer. Once you get those things right, then to a large extent, you've provided yourself an advantage and then created the needed opportunity to continue to remain relevant. Because without creating or evolving yourself, you would lose, first of all, the touch that you have with your customer, because your customer has moved on and you are still where you are. You must come along. So you must also look at what the customer needs are, because it keeps changing. Today, the customer is looking at paying for services digitally.
Yes.
And you are still in the analog state. The customer will move on. Okay, so you'd have the service, but someone is providing the same service, but giving the customer convenience. So you then need to see, okay, how do I evolve? How do I bring a different form of making payment for that? That takes the customer to where he wants to be and creates that convenience. But if you don't do that, but another entrepreneur providing the same service has elevated to that level, what will happen is immediately access to that service has changed. And then also in terms of the channels that you are reaching the customer, that also then changes the number of customers you are interacting with at the same time. We talked about walking into a physical environment and also getting onto an app that allows everybody else to access your service. So then that changes the way you reach the customer and how quickly the customer can adopt the service and how quickly you can reach everywhere with your service. So those, for me, are very important for the entrepreneurs. Once you've identified the opportunity, then you must continuously evolve with innovation and investment, because without investment, you can't be at the peak where you'll be standing out. Investment does not mean putting in a lot of money per se, but
that's what everybody thinks when you say that.
No, what essentially means is, how do you move from level 1 to 2? And it will just take something small to change that. And once you've changed that, you've given the customer a different reason to continue to stay with you. And it's very important that we do that.
Nice one. Okay, let's take a few more of your questions that have been coming in. Remember, the hashtag is Citi Business Festival, and the WhatsApp line is 0550-585832. Now, we did have a question earlier on about whether or not we've been able to quantify the contribution of digitization to the GDP of Ghana. I'll come to Kwame on that shortly. Thanks so much, Citi TV. I'm really loving this. God bless. Okay, thank you, whoever sent that message. And Kwabena on Facebook says, from the brilliant suggestion on leveraging technology in driving revenue generation for the government, for instance, the police capturing indiscipline on the road and applying fines via digital channels, what can be proactively implemented to enhance revenue generation for government aside the e-levy implementation? E-levy makes another appearance there. Okay. Hamza Azuri says, I want to ask our panelists if data science is relevant to the informal sector of our economy. Okay, Justice spoke a bit about data science, but this person is specifically asking about the informal sector and data science. And Stephen Nasebwedi, our friend on Facebook, hi Stephen, says, I really hope there's an effective communication strategy and sufficient budget to educate the public about the e-Citi. Okay, Kwame, that's another one for you. Doreen Anang says, the government should look at making stable power available. This is very important as the ISPs spend a lot of money on backup power, which makes their services very expensive. Secondly, they're not able to deploy their services to remote areas because of lack of basic infrastructure like power. There should be the internet infrastructure available all over the country. This is the government's digital agenda. Okay. Great questions. Thank you for sending them in, and do keep them coming. Okay, so Kwame, there's a couple for you on GDP and how digitization has contributed to that, and proactively implementing other channels of enhancing revenue generation for government, aside the e-levy.
Okay, thank you very much. With regards to the GDP numbers, I think that we have to be cautious about the fact that, first of all, there isn't an actual data point that has been officially put out, so I want to be careful about that. But we also have to be able to quantify the value of digitization beyond revenue, because there's a significant social, it's not just an economic benefit, but it's a social benefit to it as well. If you look at where mobile money and bank products have now expanded into right now, the number of people who have access to formal financial services, if you quantify the knock-on effects from there, it's quite significant. The improvement in livelihood, the quality of livelihood, all these are aspects that we have to be able to account for, including even the convenience that the current government platforms have provided today, whether it's going to get going to get a passport or applying for a service online. These are things that make a difference in the lives of people, in the lives of mothers who cannot, who do not have the time to be able to leave home or work to go run certain errands. So I think we have to look at quantifying the value of digitization in both social and economic contexts. With regards to the e-levy again, I don't think the goal was to look at the e-levy as the ultimate tax for the remainder of Ghana's future. The goal is to be able to continue to digitize and to be able to find creative ways of leveraging taxes, applying taxes to be able to generate the income that government needs. So I think much of the discussion we're having, we all have to be frank, there's no society in this world that does not need some form of revenue to be able to undertake what its projects and intent is and are. The idea of taxation is to be able to collectively put money in a pot and to be able to apply it to what our collective aspirations are in achieving that. So I think even as we go through these processes, Romeo spoke about Ghana.gov. Ghana.gov is introducing a certain level of efficiency, as from what we're hearing, that is improving our revenue collection. Several other initiatives have actually been successful. So perhaps as we go along, the mix of avenues through which revenue can be raised would be more diverse and the efficiency would be higher. And perhaps that, the vigorous conversations that are happening around e-levy could take a different tone at that point. But I think the fundamental point that is being made is, could other things be looked at? And those are things that government continues to look at. Okay.
And Stephen Brady wants to know if government is really going to educate the public about the ECD.
Yes. So, as I mentioned, the ECD is taking place. The pilot is taking place. This is a pilot, by the way. One of the interesting and positive observations that I've made is people have assumed we're going live permanently now.
No.
It's a pilot. It's a pilot to understand. And our goal was very clear in the governor's 2019 press release and press conference statement, where he said, we're going to explore an ECD pilot in a sandbox environment we want to know the feasibility of its implementation in the future and make a decision on it. And so for the offline version that we're testing in Sefri Asafo, there's a lot of education happening where we're testing various elements to it. For the online part in Accra as well, we mentioned IT Consortium, Vodafone Cash, and Cow Bank are all institutions that have been announced as being part of this pilot. The goal is to be able to test, a few institutions and see how it works, right? Because when we print cash, we make it available to these to commercial banks. That's how we distribute cash into the economy anyway. So we want to be able to do that, but also create an avenue where innovators and banks, mobile money operators, and fintechs can actually plug into this and see what they can also build on top of it, because it's currency, right? We're just providing the basics, so the innovation can spin off on top of that. But in terms of education, there will be significant education. There's actually a focus on that and a plan around that. Budgets, from what we have heard, is not always about having a large funded budget for things that are high topic and high interest like this. The virality nature is actually quite interesting sometimes. I'm seeing the news coming in and out about the ECD, and I think the goal is to make sure that we're engaging stakeholders to understand what it means for all of them. One of our fundamental guiding points is to make sure that we're not making people worse off collectively. So whether it's mobile money players, whether it's fintechs, whether it's banks, the goal is to make sure that everyone is better off, even consumers, because the cost of their operations, they all ride on banking infrastructure. And that's a purposefully crafted regulatory framework. But we also face the reality that liquidity management, for instance, in rural areas is expensive. And that ultimately translates into the cost of the operations and to the consumer. So if we can provide a more efficient form factor, a dematerialized version of the notes and coins that everyone can use, the ultimate cost savings from the bank's level, from the fintech's level, from the mobile money operators level, between competition and innovation will translate to the consumer. And it gives consumers choice and much more affordable means of making payments and receiving payments if you're a merchant, for instance.
Well, talking about cost of operations, again, this question about the internet providers and stable power supply. I'm going to ask Romeo, Justice, and Ellie about this, about how some power issues affect your business and the cost of doing business, which eventually gets passed down to the end consumer. As an entrepreneur, how you deal with that. As we're trying to advance, we're trying to take advantage of technology, trying to build a digital economy bigger. The power supply issue, it's a serious one, I'm sure.
Yeah. I would take it from the fact that, yes, power is essential. And I think over the years, we got to better.
Okay.
But as entrepreneurs, we don't just wait and cry. So as an institution, if you come to our office, on top of our building, they are all solar panel. So currently, half of our power generation comes from solar. So that reduces the cost of. And the only thing that is not on solar in our office is the air conditioning. Our systems, everything is on solar. And we took a strategic decision that, yes, we need power and it's important. Yes, we have, a genset and everything. But we have taken a decision that nothing on top of our building should be anything but solar panel. And we did not start by having all of it covered at the same time.
Okay.
Progression, investing in your business. Some people think that once I have a business and I make a profit immediately, I have to start spending. No. Reinvest what you are making in the system, in your business. That helps you to grow cheaply. We talk about organic growth. Sometimes what you need is organic growth. That helps you to be focused and be able to do things properly and reduce cost. So and I know a number of companies are going that. So if you are a barbering shop, you can actually have a solar panel, small battery. How much do you need to be able to do that? You can do that. And there are a lot of companies that are supplying solar panels. Affordable.
That's what I know. A lot of people are thinking, your IT consulting, of course you can afford solar.
No.
But the average
there are companies that are actually renting solar systems where you pay 1 cedi a day. Yes.
Solution.
Yeah, somebody has thought about it and said people can afford, so he puts a solution together. And it's fine. This company, which is on our platform, they collateralize power. Yes, so they can, if you don't pay, automatically it turns off. But you are paying 2 cedis, 3 cedis a day or a week. That allows you to be able to use power. So we are talking about innovation. Okay, so this is a business that somebody can go into and be able to get people getting power in their homes and small businesses. I don't think that this will solve every problem. That is why government should continue to improve on our power generation and the mixture of green and then the normal ones. But as individuals, there's so much we can do. I'm hoping that ECG also is listening, that they will come up with meters that allows homes to sell power to the grid. So in my house, I use solar panel.
Right.
And in the day, good day, I produce over 2K kilowatts. I use 600. Excess. That can actually go back into the grid as a credit for me.
Right.
Then in the evening, when maybe I need more because I don't want to use too much of my battery, it could come to me as credit. But what it will mean is that just imagine all the people that we are encouraging to go green. And those who can afford to go green are all doing solar, and government is giving incentive for them to do that. Yeah. What it will mean is that a lot of generation will be coming from homes, from hospital, from businesses. The reason that we took the decision to go solar is that we spend the day in the office. And that is the time that you have the sun.
Hot sun.
We don't spend the night. So the batteries actually support throughout the night. But during the day, we generate and then we charge our batteries. We don't use the grid to charge our batteries. We use the solar to charge our batteries. So power is important, but we need to think and not wait. We cannot always wait for government because the social needs are many. And if we want government to solve all our social needs, we will sit there doing nothing. I don't depend on government. Government infrastructure is good. And government should continue. And we have to continue to push government to do these kind of things. But we should also take it upon ourselves to be doing things. I pray that KNUST will be doing more science. I hope they won't come for me, than arts. I went to KNUST.
You went to KNUST?
Yes. That there will be a department that is looking at solar energy.
Yeah.
I want a situation whereby cocoa, we have a cocoa university where we are innovating around our cocoa beans and not just the powder. I want a situation whereby we have a university that looks at palm oil. So these are things that we can do. And this is business.
Yeah.
It's business. Somebody can just set up a school to look at those things and begin to. There are companies in Europe that have never seen a cocoa tree. And we buy their chocolate.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe that government should do its part, but entrepreneurs also should step in with solutions that help us to be able to build the infrastructure that we require in our businesses.
Okay, very quickly, Ellie, your thoughts on the power situation and how it affects entrepreneurs?
Well, I think Romeo has touched on the positive sides.
Yes.
As much as possible, we all know that there are limitations to these things. And so as a business, you should also look at how you can back up whatever is available, because you want to ensure that you remain competitive. At the time when you have to be offering service, you don't give excuses if your other competitor is able to offer the service. Over time, your level of efficiency would also be informed by all the several other things you are doing beyond power, so that it doesn't only become as you offer the service or the price point that you offer the service to the customer. There are several other things that comes to you, and you should be able to look at it overall, so that if power is one of your key costs today, where can you balance that to remain competitive, so that there are other areas of your business that is more efficient, that can carry part of the challenges you have today on power. Then you over time can move into more efficient power sources and even out your business profitability over time. So you just need to look at it as a business person and ensure that you have backups to support your continuous operation.
Very nice. And Justice?
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, I think that the final thing for me will be in making sure that you have those backups. Just make sure that you are saving for the rainy day, right? Because you might get a windfall in your operations. It doesn't mean, and I think Romeo was making that point, you should go to spend lavishly, right? Invest in backup or alternatives, be it power or if it's internet connectivity, fiber cuts, okay, etc. Because the ultimate thing is that the customer won't be taking any excuses.
Right.
Because you have your competitors who are trying to match up with you and are operating in the same environment. So if they are able to offer that service within the environment that we have, obviously, what's your excuse, right? So I think it's important that as organizations, we make sure that we make the needed investments. Government is doing this part, but obviously we should make the needed investments to improve reliability, stability, and ensure that we can ultimately serve the customer as they desire.
Very nice. All right. Romeo Buje is the CEO of IT Consortium. Kwame Opong is the head of FinTech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana. Justice Amegashi is the acting Chief Enablement and Information Officer at ABSA. And Eli Hini is the CEO of MTN Mobile Money Company Limited. They have been our panelists for today's discussion on reimagining the digital economy, our first in this year's series of the Citi Business Festival. And I think we can all agree that it's been a scintillating discussion. But again, before we go, we've got to acknowledge our sponsors. And we thank you for joining us, those who joined watching on TV and those who joined virtually as well. And to all of you who sent in your questions, we greatly appreciate you participating in the show today. So big thanks to our sponsors, ABSA, MTN, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, IT Consortium, and LifeMate Furniture for supporting us with our beautiful set for the Citi Business Festival. And we just want to remind you that you can still interact with us on our social media platforms and continue to send messages as well. Remember, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. we'll be live on Citi TV and virtually, and you can register to join our discussions. And on radio, every day of the week, we'll be live as well to bring you our Citi Business Festival topics. So thank you again for joining us. My name is Kokwi Selome Hansen, and thanks again to all of our panelists for a wonderful debut for this year's Citi Business Festival. So we'll see you next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in.